All right, South Lake Carroll and Longview facing off this weekend. First of all, I know you had some opinions. My news director was going back and forth, think, with you on Facebook. What was your reaction to Longview knocking off the great DeSoto?
Shocked, legitimately shocked. I was going back and forth with your news director. I wasn't even aware.
Something like that. She was showing me tweets saying that we weren't surprised down here in East Texas, but let me tell you, we were.
That was your news director.
Yeah,
That's very funny.
there was not a single reporter on our end, on their end, that was expecting this kind of game that we saw from.
No, no.
What I mean, these
They
guys.
beat DeSoto worse than Duncanville beat DeSoto. Nobody on the planet predicted this.
So I will ask you this: I don't know how much of the game you got to see. What stood out to you the most outside of the score in terms of that game?
Well, I didn't see it. I was doing the Allen North Crowley game at the same time, and we hit halftime, and we're doing scores around the area, and I see, I'm sorry, 13-7 Longview in the second quarter. What's happening here? That was our first kind of jump off point reaction of, wow, okay. And I mean, listen, is there something to be said for the weather of it all? Probably, but I'd be more inclined to make that argument if it was more like 13-7 or 20. When the final score is 50-14, I'm sorry, we're done here. Like that's a dominant performance, and you don't have a leg to stand on. That is a dramatic result that I did not see coming at all. I've known about Boosie a little bit. I mean, we don't cover him here because they're not in our market, but I've heard about him plenty because of what he did against Forney, what he did against Rockwall, what he's done, multiple times this season, tearing up teams from this area. So I've been, at least generally speaking, familiar with his work. But to do that to DeSoto, to hang 50 on DeSoto in a regional final, unbelievable. And I mean, shoot, if they can do that to DeSoto, they can beat anybody in the state.
That's interesting you say it. I will say I do think the weather was a factor. Yeah. It was
Sure.
rain, it was cold, it was terrible. I was
It was
expecting
awful.
it was awful. Like I was there and everyone was out there. We were just trying to stay dry. But I will say that rain let up and there was opportunities for drier conditions, for DeSoto to get going in that game, but they just could not stop Boosie. And
Yeah.
Boosie's impressive because it's not like he gets all these D1 looks. He's not that huge of a guy, but he just gets the ball going and he gets that ground game really going for Longview. I will ask you though, South Lake Carroll wise, how excited are they to not see DeSoto again in this round of the playoffs like they did last year?
I mean, that's a good question because I think on some level they probably would have wanted the opportunity for revenge. And again, you look at, well, if you wanted DeSoto, if you thought, oh, man, I don't know if we want to play DeSoto. If you're worried about playing DeSoto, you want to play the team that just beat them 50-14. Like that doesn't track. They've South Lake is an interesting team to me because I feel like they're a good team. They're a good team. They're good every year. I've had questions about them going all the way through this season ever since Riley Wormley went down because he was their dude. And just the way that their schedule fell, the way that their district fell, they had a couple of good wins in non-district, and then their district really isn't all that good. And their playoff run, their win against Denton Geyer is impressive to me, but their playoff run, other than that, is not dramatically impressive. Mansfield Legacy, Friendship, Hebron. I mean, honestly, if anything, I saw only a 5-point win against Hebron. Went, yeah, okay. South Lake Carroll's number 4 in the state rankings because they just haven't had a loss on the schedule. The schedule has been friendly to them, and they've just continued to climb the rankings because they're not going to lose to Northwest or LD Bell. It's just not going to happen. So I've had big questions about, is South Lake Carroll actually going to be able to hang with DeSoto once they meet up in the state semifinals again, assuming that was going to be the case? I was kind of figuring that this was going to be more lopsided than last year was in favor of DeSoto. So yeah, no, I think your Longview boys are they're in a really good position right now. Now, I mean, shoot, I think Riley Dodge is a heck of a football coach, and we'll see. But I think they're in a good spot.
It is odd to think about because around here, everyone's talking Longview's having a down season. This isn't their best season. No one was expecting this because, they had the back-to-back losses at home for the first time in 20 years. They'd struggled a little bit, but then again, they play a tough district and they beat everyone they needed to in district. And you're right. I was looking at the South Lake Carroll squad a little bit, doing some research, and I wasn't super impressed by their 14-0 record. At this point in the season, though, would you feel it's more momentum than anything? I mean, after that double overtime win over Geyer, you think this team's playing its best football right now in South Lake Carroll?
Um, the win over Geyer impresses me. That's a good Geyer football team that even hung reasonably with North Crowley, who's remarkable this year. That was back in September before North Crowley had really gotten it rolling, but that was an impressive result for them, I feel like. So yeah, the win over Geyer is impressive and gives you reason to think that maybe they've got things pointed in the right direction and that they're playing maybe their best ball right now. But again, it's kind of hard to say because when was the last time they played a challenging opponent? Euless Trinity on September 20th. I think it's the last time they played a top 25 team prior to the Geyer game. So it's hard to really take a whole lot out of only 7-point win over Friendship and only 5-point win over Hebron other than negatives. The win against Geyer, I feel like, is a positive, but again, it's hard to really say.
Yeah, Longview's pretty clear in what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball with Boosie. I think I could count on my hand the amount of times they threw the ball this last game. What kind of offense can we be expecting out of South Lake Carroll?
I mean, you're going to see Renda, the quarterback, drop back and sling it around for sure. I mean, he's over 35 touchdown passes on the year, 5-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, and he's got a kid in Boyd, Brock Boyd, that's going to TCU. That's a 3-star kid. That's going to be line one anyway of their offense, and that's what Longview's going to have to be able to slow down. And I mean, they've got, even though Wormley's been out for a while now, that's maybe the one benefit for South Lake Carroll, and maybe the reason why they are pointed in a better direction here of late is just that they've had time to figure out what they have to be in a post Riley Wormley world, because it's been 2 months since he's been on the field for them, a month and a half anyway, somewhere in that ballpark. So Riley Dodge and his coaching staff, they've at least had an opportunity to figure out, okay, this is where we can be at our best now that we don't have our best player at our fingertips.
Longview really got this game going on both ends of the ball. It really is those trenches, but especially on the offensive side of things, they were making holes wider than the Grand Canyon against a good DeSoto team. How do you think they stack up on, against that defensive line of the Dragons?
Listen, the DeSoto defense had their issues this year, but mostly their issues were on the back end. They got by Duncanville because, I mean, a lot of people get got by Duncanville because they've got DeCorian Moore, they've got Keelan Russell. I mean, there's not many teams around the state that can go 5-star to 5-star. That's extremely rare. But that was where they had issues, was in their secondary defensively. Their defensive line is good. They've got Marshall Curvin. They've got Kiki Abrams. They've got some dudes up front that are going to do big things at the next level, that were terrific, and that were those two guys in particular were instrumental in the fact that they won the game against Duncanville last year. So their defensive front was good. So if Longview's able to move those guys around, they can move just about anybody at the high school level around, maybe other than Duncanville. Frankly, now that they've done what they did to DeSoto, I kind of want to see Longview Duncanville. We're not going to get treated to that, but it does make me like, gosh, how good is Longview if they're able to do that? So yeah, if they can move that DeSoto defensive front around, no disrespect to the South Lake Carroll defensive front, but they're not. I don't think they're better than DeSoto's defensive front.
I will say so. I mean, this is a pretty far game from East Texas. Longview fans are known to travel. They were there in Waco. It was hard to see them there tucked into the concourse. But, I mean, this is in SMU. I mean, this is in Dallas. This is a DFW team. How much at this point in the playoffs do you think that kind of home field, this is in their backyard advantage, is there really?
I mean, there's got to be some, right? Because, I mean, for even if not for the fans, for the team themselves. That's a what 25-minute bus ride. That's a pretty easy commute to get to SMU. They're going to have it a little easier just from a wear and tear on your body perspective, rather than probably what about an hour and a half bus ride for Longview. Not unconscionably long, obviously, but longer. So yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a factor there. I don't know how they. I mean, obviously the coaches have to kind of come to a decision here, and sometimes they flip a coin. I'm not sure exactly how that went between these two coaches in particular. So I'm not sure how they landed on SMU as their site. There's no stadium that's really jumping to mind that's kind of halfway between those two locations. So they probably didn't have a whole lot to choose from. So that was probably a factor too in all of this. But yeah, that probably is at least a little bit of a home field advantage for Southlake.
Both of these teams are pretty familiar with this round of the playoffs. Longview's got their history. Southlake Carroll was there just about last year. If you had to pick just how you think this game's going to go, where do you think it would end up?
Again, going back to I haven't been terribly high on Carroll all year. Again, I didn't get to see the Longview DeSoto game to really be able to. I mean, I saw the highlights that we ran ourselves that night, but how much can you really take from that? I'm curious your perspective. Did it feel to you at any point, whether that was third quarter and it's 23-7 or whatever the case may be, did it feel to you at any point like DeSoto kind of went, all right, we're cooked, and they kind of let up?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it happened even before then. There was a
Really?
point in that game, DeSoto tied it up. It was really early, but there was
Mhm.
not a single second of that ball game where they had any momentum.
Mhm.
Longview shut them down completely, and they were punching them in the mouth offensively, running that ball, and it just had no answer. There was a time,
Mhm.
there was a lot of penalties in that game, and I think that was a big part of it for DeSoto too. They were very um, quick to get penalties. They were lining up and constantly moving back, and even Longview had some issues with it. But then there was one time they pinned Longview down within their own 5 yard line,
Mhm.
and Boosie just takes off for a
That was the
96
highlight we
yard.
ran. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He just takes off for 96 yards down the field, and you could just see it on that DeSoto line. They were just like, what do we do?
Mhm.
And I think, you know, I'd have a hard time picking against that. You got he had 5 touchdowns, almost 300 yards. Um, I'm taking that guy anytime. And I think if Longview's strategy will be one dimensional, I was questionable about it because they struggled against Lancaster, being one dimensional
Yeah.
early in the game. But since then, at halftime, they just figured it out. And no one's been able to shut him down. And I don't think Southlake Carroll, just strictly going off, if I'm going to be going off of schedules, I don't think they've played anybody that would test that either.
Yeah, and again, that's where I come back to it. It's hard to really drill down on how good is this Southlake Carroll team, because I mean, shoot, they played Hebron back in September and beat the doors off of them, and then they play them 2 months later, 2.5 months later in the playoffs, and it's a 5 point game. Like, honest to God, coming out of that 42-37 Hebron result, I said to one of our producers at Channel 8, I was like, okay, if I had any doubts about the fact that DeSoto's going back and repeating, they're gone now, because I don't see anybody, frankly, I mean, the team on the other side of the bracket would be Summer Creek, most likely, and DeSoto beat them by 60 last year, literally
Yeah,
74-14. I'm
goodness.
sorry, but I don't think, as much as I don't think DeSoto is as good this year as they were last year, no two ways about it. And that obviously showed itself the other day. Due respect to Keldon Ryan, who I think is a good quarterback. He had big shoes to fill with DJ Bailey leaving, and he didn't fully fill them. He did a nice job this year. He had a nice season, but when we're talking about going and winning a third straight state championship, clearly that mission was not accomplished for them, and he wasn't the same guy. But I kind of felt like, okay, nothing about Carroll really felt like it was going to be a threat to DeSoto, frankly, going into, I mean, again, who knows what Carroll Longview is going to look like on Saturday, but that was kind of when I saw 42-37, I said, okay, Carroll's not beating DeSoto. Summer Creek's not beating DeSoto. I frankly I did not factor Longview into my equation, and clearly that was an error on my part
Most people
because
aren't.
I didn't even think about it. I really
Yeah,
didn't.
a lot of people aren't factoring, Longview because there's this notion that Longview's on a down year, and I've asked people about it. And I do want to ask you this one question. I've asked a lot of coaches out here when they play Dallas teams. Is there a rivalry, you think, from East Texas and the DFW area? Do you guys look at us like a bunch of hicks out here?
I mean, I don't.
Obviously, but
You know what? I think hmm, I'm definitely aware of and conscious of the Beast Texas mantra and the fact that there's talent out there. I had a chance to do the Timpson Toller State Championship game last year and got a chance to see just how phenomenal Terry Bussey was. Um, so like I think everybody out here is understanding of and respectful of the fact that there's talent out that way. I'm from upstate New York, man. I have no attachment to any part of Texas other than the fact that I've lived in the Dallas area now for 10 years. Um, so I have seen firsthand just how good the DFW area is and has been year after year after year, especially in those highest classifications with the Duncanvilles and the DeSotos and the Alitos and the Sox. And I mean, you can go right down the list. Denton Ryan a couple of years ago, and now here they come back again. So I've seen it firsthand that this area is, at least in those top 2.5 to 3 classifications, 4A, D1 and on up, basically, they do dominate. So it makes sense that the folks down in Houston, the folks in East Texas, anybody anywhere would want to. Hey, let's go get those guys. Let's go show them what's up. And credit to Longview for doing that in the most dramatic and impressive and shocking way that I have seen in. I'm trying to remember a result that surprised me as much as this one did. It's been a minute. It has been a while since a result was that completely opposite what I expected. You could have sold me on 50-14 DeSoto. Honest to God, you absolutely could have sold me on 50-14 DeSoto. That result stunned me on Saturday.
I remember I was talking to one of the reporters out from East Texas, and they were talking about, wow, I'm glad this weather is so terrible. It's going to make me leaving at halftime when this game is blown out feel a little bit better.
I don't blame them for having that thought process going in. I mean, listen, I did the Allen North Crowley game that was happening basically concurrently with the DeSoto. It was a 3 o'clock kick, DeSoto and Longview.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it was the Allen North Crowley was a 2 o'clock kick. So I got to see firsthand just how much the weather was impacting that game. Allen put the ball on the deck in every way imaginable in that football game. It was ugly. North Crowley, a team that has the most high-powered passing game in the state, maybe other than Duncanville, threw the ball 3 or 4 times in the first quarter before the rain really got started. They didn't throw the ball again until there was like 2 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
That's the impact that we're talking about with how nasty the weather was on Saturday. So like you alluded to it already. There was obviously some impact there on this game, but man, 50-14, you can't just chalk it up to that. It's not remotely fair. So
Yeah.
I'm stunned by it, but I still have not been able to make sense of it.
Yeah, us too. But we're happy out here that we're going to keep talking about East Texas football, as long as it
Yes.
keeps going. It's a great story, especially just like I said, it's been the thought process that these guys are having a down year. There's no way they're going to go that far because they had quarterback struggles early on, and they're playing with a sophomore quarterback right now who's really kind of had to grow up through the playoffs. And that's something Coach John King's been talking about a lot, that he's really made it work. And he's shown some flashes this year. They had a comeback in overtime over Lancaster when they were down 28-14 going into the halftime. So they really had to pull some tricks out